Yeah, and it's also going to be on YouTube as well, so as many people as watch it can tap in as possible. Is it sharing okay your end?
Could you send it to me on Facebook?
Yeah. I just have to get into Facebook. Here we go. So yeah, welcome everyone. And we are just getting set up. We're just making sure that as many people as possible can get access to this. I'm just going to shoot this across in a message. And as you are arriving on the call, just inviting you really to sink in, turn off all those other distractions. I've just sent it to you on Facebook. So welcome everyone to Healing Beauty Symposium. This is the place to really empower your feminine heart in life, in business, and in love. And today we've got a very special guest, Maya Luna, who's going to be talking to us about holy groundlessness, the deep spiritual feminine path. Hello, Maya.
Hi.
It's been very special, actually, since we've connected. I dreamt about you last night, like this soul connection. It's really special. And I'm really looking forward to today, as I'm sure everyone else that's tuning in is watching as well.
Tell me about your dream.
Yeah, so my dream last night was I was there and you came in and there was a remembrance, like a kind of remembrance from a different time, a different species. And you were looking at me saying, I remember you. I remember you. Yeah.
Wow. I love that.
I don't dream about everyone. So if I dream about in this like texture of dream, I know that it means something very special. So.
Wow, another layer or dimension of reality perhaps that's playing alongside of this.
Yeah, that's what I feel, that this is working on different levels. And yeah, so before we get into today, I just want to really invite everyone in. Those that don't know me, my name is Kelly. I am an activator of the divine feminine through the sacred womb space. And so I just want to invite us in for a very quick arrival meditation. So we can just close our eyes. And just breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth at your own rhythm. And just now calling and gathering, almost pulling on the strings of your energy that are perhaps not in your body. Maybe they're out in the ethers. Maybe they're with people, situations that you've been dealing with. Wherever your energy is, you can just call and gather it now back into your body. To fully arrive in the present moment. And just really feeling your hips and your pelvis. Sinking into your hips and your pelvis. And just breathing into this area. If you know it or if you don't know it very well, but breathing into your hips and your pelvis. And then almost coming inwards into the Holy of Holies, into your sacred womb space. And breathing into that space. And just arriving and calling you into this circle that we're creating together today, whether you're watching the replay or not, we're creating this energetic field where you're welcome in. And just feeling our lines connecting across the earth. Coming into the physical edges of your body, and opening your eyes. Welcome. So, for those that don't know Maya, she is a poet and a teacher of the lost feminine wisdom streams. She teaches online and worldwide and is the creator of the Deep Feminine Mystery School. And she's written many things, and I love listening to you, Maya. So the first poetry book was Omega, Feral Secrets of the Deep Feminine, a spoken word album, Holy Darkness, a tantric opus. And your second book and musical album, Holy Grail, is going to be released this month.
Yes, it's actually been delayed, but soon, and it's incredible. I'm so excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to. I think you've given some snippets away, and I'm really, loving how it's feeling. So I can't wait. So welcome, Maya, to Healing Beauty, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here with you.
So for those that don't know you so well, before we kind of dive into your subject today, would you share a bit about your story?
My story. Oh my goodness. What do I want to tell you about my story? I think that my story is, in true feminine fashion, a very backwards story, meaning um, rather than a linear progression of my own will and intention and desiring that this is what I'm interested in and this is what I want to study. It's a little bit more like my life, my mythos, everything from my family karma to where I was drawn and guided in my life has really played the story of the lost feminine, and particularly the lost feminine's relationship to the matrix of patriarchy. And when I say backwards story, what I mean is that, it's sort of like it took me until about, I would say 2011 to kind of go, that's what this has been about. Oh, and putting the pieces together, even down to like, I have an accidental tattoo, which is very weird, meaning like I went and I told them this is what I would like, and they totally misheard me. And they gave me this like totally different tattoo. But then like the meaning of the tattoo revealed itself as like part of the essence of the dark goddess later. And it was just like, so it's just been a lot of that, a lot of non-linear kind of, it's like, this is just the path that claimed me, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people watching, it's like this pull, this drawing in. Oh,
Yeah.
So would you talk to us a bit about your topic today? About
Yes.
when I read it, holy groundlessness, I was like, holy groundlessness, like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just tune in for a second. So I consider the realm of the goddess, the realm of the deep feminine, to be the realm of incarnation and immanence. So we know that on this planet, when there was a connection to the deep feminine, when there was a connection to what I call the divine in density, holy matter, the great mother, when the spirituality of human beings was intimately woven with the body, with the earth, with the reality of incarnation, we know that, the divine was recognized as this female body, right? Because of the symbology of everything that the female body represents. And when we look at what has happened to spirituality, specifically spirituality, in the era of patriarchy, the last few thousand years, what we see is if we really, really decode it, and this is kind of one of my passions, it is an attempt to conquer the immense fragility and vulnerability of what it is to be incarnated in a body. So I'll give a couple of examples of this. One being, the 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 emphasis on the divine as the transcendent principle rather than the immanent incarnated, right? The idea that heaven is superior to earth, the earth is a fallen realm, right? So then we have like the Father God, right? That whole stream. And we have the Eastern kind of awareness, consciousness based. Go on the mountaintop and meditate into awareness until you're basically free from attachment, free from mortality, free from suffering, free from everything that is implicit to what it is to live in the belly of the goddess. And then the last is kind of what I call the hyper innovative self-improvement model of spirituality. Meaning, I'm going to work really hard and heal and transform, and then one day I'm going to get to some fantasy, again, out, away, right? That's the theme, out and away, instead of down and in and down and in and down and in, meeting the depth of what it is to be incarnated, to be alive. And so one of the, implicit facts, deep truths about what it is to be incarnated in a body on earth, in the realm of the goddess, in the realm of the feminine, is that we live inside of what I think it was Pema Chodron called it groundlessness, which means reality is wild. Life is wild. We will never fully conquer life. We have this beautiful capacity for will and for agency, but it's not total. As long as we are incarnated here, in form, in body, we are subject to impermanence. Everything is coming and going. Everything is birthing and dying and churning and seeding and wilting and decaying. We ourselves one day will die. Everything we love will one day die. Things happen, blessings happen, beautiful, opportunities happen that are completely out of our control, as well as, hardships and struggles and tragedies. And it's like I can even feel in this moment, the kind of like, there's a field that's like, don't touch that, don't look at that, don't fully sink into that, right? The patriarchal spiritual kind of programming, right, is like, all of that is bad. All of that is unfortunate. All of that is an accident. We should detach from it. We should dissociate from it. We should, forget about it. We should try to conquer it. We should try to resolve it. And what I've discovered is that on the deep feminine spiritual path, when we open our hearts to this truth, because it's actually just true, it's just really what life is. There is such an immense opening of the heart and such an immense invitation into the totality and fullness and richness and the preciousness of life. You know, the fact that we're just here for a brief moment, in all of its pleasure, in all of its pain, in all of its glory, in all of its suffering. This is what it is. And to be humble enough to kind of lay our head on the lap of the goddess and go, you know, she is more powerful, actually. She is more than we are. And there's just a lot of very rich, life affirming, nourishing spiritual wisdom when we turn towards the wildness, towards the groundlessness. And I think it's very interesting that that groundlessness, that lack of control, that inability to conquer life is sort of exactly what patriarchal spirituality has been set on avoiding and getting. It's like everything that we call spirituality has been trying to turn away from that.
Yeah, I can. It's almost like what creates the suffering is the rejection of what is and creating these fantasies. And the rejection, what I'm feeling of, is chaos,
That's
which
right.
has a hidden order and a beauty. And we're judging beauty and chaos
Yes.
with patriarchal mindsets.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that just as I've deepened into this inquiry and my own path and my own, exploration, it's like we have forgotten how beautiful fragility is, how beautiful tenderness is. You know, it's like we really have come to worship the conqueror, right? Power, yeah? And there's an immense power in the courage to turn towards our own fragility and tenderness. And again, I think that's where the preciousness of life is really revealed, actually, when we really realize, like, oh, this could go away at any moment. How do we breathe and savor life when we know that? How do we meet all the delights of the body to see and smell and taste and touch and hear and feel and make love when we are awake, to the truth that mortality is real and impermanence is real, Yeah.
I
There's
mean,
just
what you're bringing here is
oh,
almost against this spiritual, I don't want to call that dogma, the new age movement of manifestation and goals and your will over divine
right,
will almost.
right. No, it's quite profound when you really start to see how every thread of spirituality that I've detected anyways has a patriarchal rejection of the goddess implicitly embedded into it. I mean, I've even seen, you're speaking about the new age and the manifesting, and yes, absolutely. It's sort of like I am God, and so I can, make anything happen, and like that's what it is to be spiritual, is to be the conqueror
Yeah.
of life, right? Which we know is also not real. No, we know that's not real. No one has achieved that. No one has done that, you know? And yeah, I've even seen recently, like, there's kind of this other, you know, I guess sect of new ageism or ascensionism that like actually believes that we're not supposed to need food or water. We're not supposed to be mortal. We're not supposed to die. That all of that is this kind of like evil programming. I think that it's even called the Dark Mother, I think. And it's like we're trying to like wake up and like free ourselves from that. And it's like, whoa, come on, people, do you not see? Do you not see? But I think it just speaks to, again, like we've lost our remembrance of why that is sacred. I think that's why we don't see it, right?
Mm.
What is sacred about mortality? What is sacred about fragility? What is sacred about powerlessness? What is sacred about life being more powerful than we are? What is
Yeah.
sacred about impermanence? You know?
Yeah, it's goal orientated instead of
Yes, the meeting of life, the meeting of life as life is. So it carried inside of that is this implicit kind of, devotional surrender of like, okay, maybe this isn't a mistake. Maybe this isn't a flaw. you know, maybe it's sacred just as it is. And then what? Who are we when life is sacred without our needing to conquer, dominate, purify, control, ascend, go beyond what life is? It's an intimacy that I think, again and again and again, takes us into this immaculate fragility and tenderness, which is so holy, which is so sacred.
yeah, I'm sure when you're what I'm feeling when you're speaking is just sinking down and actually letting all of this shit go. You can just let yourself off the hook for everything and just receive what is.
There it is. There it is. I love that you just said the word receive. I love that. That's a big part of what I teach, is that our actual embodiment, like how we be in our bodies in the moment, is so geared towards not only reaching up and out and away from this moment, but leaning forward into, you know, what's the goal? What's the point? Where is this going? What's the objective, right? And what I call the deep feminine current of reality, or the goddess, which is just the immanent face of God, right? God up close, God in the flesh, happens through the down and in the receiving. And then it's right there. Everything that we were searching for in our endless attempt to transcend and innovate and improve and conquer and heal, everything is already given right
Wow.
here.
I'm sure people listening to this can just what why do you think women have this difficulty to receive?
Mm. Well, I think everyone does.
Yeah.
I think everyone does,
Yeah.
you know? And I think, I want to be clear that when I say receive, I'm not talking about receiving, love or money or jobs or things, or I'm talking about a quality of um, receiving the moment. That's the best way I can describe it. And in that posture of receiving the moment, there's an intimacy with the divine, actually, but it happens through the embodied present moment. And I think
That's
that,
why you're called This Moment is a Portal on Facebook.
yes.
And now I get it. A portal to the divine now here.
Yes. Yes, and there's this tantric saying that, nothing is forbidden and nothing is required. I consider tantra to be really the essence of the path of the feminine goddess. So it's like there's nowhere that it's not, you know, nothing needs to be achieved or gotten to know, to taste, to be. Is always, always right here. And isn't that, you're asking why do women have difficulty receiving? And I would say everyone has difficulty receiving. And it's because of this implicit orientation that something other than here is where we need to go.
Yeah.
Something is missing. Yep, we never get there, right? It's always on the horizon. It's always on the horizon. And I think this is the hungry ghost and the dream of the consciousness of patriarchy and the dissociation from the feminine, you know, because our capacity to innovate and improve and build upon and seek goals and all of that is wonderful and important and part of being human. But if we cannot receive, if we cannot actually taste fulfillment,
We're chasing instead of
yes,
enjoying whatever that creation may have been.
yes, exactly, exactly.
Wow.
How do we remember? And in my experience, it's just through embodiment. It's through how we be in our bodies. That's how we taste the goddess.
And why do we have difficulty in embodiment, in your opinion?
Hmm. I think it's a long legacy that's been going on for many, many, many generations, particularly in the Western world, which has then become the kind of dominant paradigm because of the colonizer paradigm, right? But it's like our center of gravity is very much up and out and away. You were speaking about your your sacred work in this world having to do with the womb, you know, and I don't know the depths of what your womb work is about, but I think that my sense is that women have a special role to play in helping humanity remember how to come back down and in, because we have that implicit gravity and density that the menstruation and bleeding and the like, we've been
Cycle.
initiated. Yes, yes. And talk about groundlessness and wildness, right? And impermanence. Like, this is partly why the body of woman was the vision of the divine, right? Because same as why the snake was associated with the goddess and the moon was associated with the goddess, because these are all symbols of impermanence. These are all symbols of impermanence. And so we have very much come to worship the deathless, and the transcendent. But, right, the goddess and the deep feminine is the holy that lives inside of impermanence, right? The snake sheds its skin, the moon changes its face and cycles around, the womb releases blood and dies and ripens and sheds, and women have a very special role to play, I think, in bringing us back to this truth.
Yeah. And because when we're feeling that physically, what I found in women connecting to their womb is often they're disconnected because there's a lot of trauma there. And we
Oh,
don't have the processes in this patriarchal world on how to work those through, and so we'll just rather disconnect than feel, and like it's, yeah, so that's what I've experienced.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, so important, that work, you know, meeting the layers of where we have separated ourselves from this temple.
Yes, and that's when I take, you know, when women connect deeply, they get to meet this emanation within. Like you say, it's not out and up, it's right there, baby. And there is so much love and wisdom for
Wow.
you and for what you may want to share.
Wow. Wow. Hmm. Hmm. What do
So
you feel
how,
right now as we touch into some of these layers? What do you notice?
I feel with when I is like a, and my womb speaks, she moves.
Mm, 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 mm,
I would love to feel and know how people on the call are feeling
mm,
as you open this up.
mm. Yeah.
What can women do then to start to get into this embodiment and touch on this deep feminine current that you're
Yeah.
speaking about?
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I have an album on Spotify that is it's a free collection of embodiment practices about the deep feminine current of reality. Um, and if I could just kind of describe it in a nutshell, um, so it's a couple of things. It's noticing the up and forward, just in a very subtle way, and reversing that into a back and down. It's opening to the wisdom of different shapes. One of my practices is called the spiral body. So if you think of, the cosmos is a spiral, the golden ratio, everything in creation, everything in the goddess, everything in the realm of incarnation and immanence makes this spiral. Even the fetus is a little spiral, right? But we're very straight and rigid in our world, right? So like opening to the spiral. Yeah. Um, yeah, dropping down into that descending current, savoring through the senses, really meeting life intimately through the body. All of this opens up, in my experience, a direct connection to this goddess temple that is like literally here in every single embodied present moment. And I think one other thing I want to say that I didn't say is that, the patriarchal fixation on the transcendent and on the rejection of everything that has to do with being a human, basically, right? In my experience, this realm of incarnation, this realm of immanence in all of its heartbreaking beauty and glory and suffering and joy and delight and powerlessness and radiance and vulnerability, it's like it's all infused with her love. It's all infused with her love. And that's, I think, just one of the most, merciful, like on your knees, right? Because then there's nothing to escape. when we enter the embodied present moment, when we meet life in whatever it is, um, there's just this loving nectar right there and there and there, even there, right? The deep, 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 deep love of the mother.
I mean, that just sounds beautiful, and I have tears in my eyes as I start to feel that.
Hmm.
What do people experience then when they start to get into this current and they start to feel and see this love in
Mm-hmm.
every moment?
Mm-hmm. The most common thing that people tell me, um, and I've guided men through this, and I have a few men that have reached out to me and done my embodiment practices, and just like they're just totally in love with it. So I don't think this is just for women. I think that women are the future leaders in this space. But everyone that I have, taken into these spaces, the most common thing is home, home. Home as a felt sense, right? Not as an idea, not as a
Not
concept,
a concept, no. Yeah,
but
I
a
get it.
felt sense. And I think that's really, in my school, my body of work, my kind of mythos of my teachings is that the era of patriarchy has produced this kind of existential spiritual ache because it's a disconnection, right, from the goddess, from home, from the mother, and I think it's an ache that's like pervasive, and really like at this point kind of a spiritual disease, we could even say, you know this longing for some ineffable something that our DNA like remembers deep inside of us, but we don't quite know what it is. And then of course we just think if we like get more and do, then we're going to find it. And yet we don't, because it's her, you know.
Yeah,
She's the one that we're looking for. That's home.
yeah.
And I get pulled out too, I get pulled into my own like things, and but it never ceases to amaze me how when I enter the embodied present moment, it's right here every single time, no matter what the circumstances are.
Being with what is. Yeah, this is something.
It's
It's so
pretty
beautiful.
big.
Yeah, and what I'm loving is it's so simple. We see so many people trying to fulfill themselves from the outside, trying to rejecting the self, rejecting the experience. And this is just opening up to divinity right now in everything, like you say, the
Right.
glory, the guts, and
Yes.
it's reminding me a bit of Viktor Frankl, this book he wrote when he was in the Holocaust, which was about finding meaning, and he found such beauty and meaning there, and it's touching on this.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And I think what I've also come to understand and experience is how important grief is on the deep feminine spiritual path. Grief as prayer, grief as love, grief as ritual, grief as, um, you know, not as natural as breathing, grief as how we love. Because, and here's why. Okay, so we are incarnated in a body, that's a fact. We're all going to die someday, that's a fact. We live in impermanence, meaning everything is always changing, always going, that's a fact. And the transcendent spiritual paths are right. That does create suffering. It just does. Of course, we get attached. We bond, we love, we grow accustomed to things and people and places, and then they change and they go away.
Yeah.
And it's like, what if instead of pathologizing that and making it a problem that we need to conquer and resolve, I think grief is the secret key, you know? Like, I've started to just kind of take 10 minutes a day to just grieve. I don't even know what. I'm just grieving because I'm alive. Because I'm alive, because I'm a raw heart, because I'm entangled in all these people and places and things, and I care, and everything is kind of wildly out of my control to a certain extent. And I'm like in this fragile body and I grieve, and so what would happen, I wonder, if we allowed grief to just be not only a sacred spiritual practice, but a regular and normal part of being alive, rather than something that is reserved for like huge tragedies, but just, oh my gosh, the tenderness.
Yeah. I'm feeling the presence and the connection, because what I found in big grief moments, let's call it, is there's a disconnect. Like, I can't look at you because you remind me of that grief moment and I can't go there. So it creates a separation from
Yeah.
ourselves, but also from each other. So I feel that would bring, like,
Oh,
eye to eye. I'm looking at you and I feel you and I get you and I'm with you.
yes, yes, yes. Exactly. There's there's this like nectar of intimacy with life that happens there. And I think also it's like, the paradigm of the conqueror, that thinks that power is being really tough and strong and unimpacted by life and getting what I want. And, you know, it's sort of flipping it all on its head. Like, the power and the courage that it takes to be that naked, to be that tender, to feel, how we actually feel about being incarnated in a body and impermanence, attached, and hopelessly woven and bonding with impermanence.
Things
Right?
that are going to die, like,
Yes.
and that's what the ancient feminine schools brought, I think, is this ritual around that. And
Oh, yes.
that's how they could live with this grief and be with this grief and celebrate it, instead of going, oh no,
That's
no.
it. That's it. That's it. That's the reverence for the cycles, right? Spring, summer, fall, winter, right? Every breath that we take is a spring, summer, fall, winter. Am I saying them in the right order? I think so. Whatever it is, right? That,
Well, we don't know what it is now, it's changing.
yeah. Yeah. And that, yes, coming back into the reverence for the implicit codes of incarnation and immanence, right? Not pathologizing them as a mistake or a wound or an indication that we're asleep, or, not turning away from the immense tenderness and grief of what it is to be here, as well as the joy, and the love. To me, that's how we honor the reality of what life is. The reality of what life is. How can we even tend to our planet without that implicit care and honoring of just the reality of what it is to be alive? That's my That's my life's work. This is what, yeah, turns me
Thank
on.
you. And I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone watching is saying thank you as well.
Can we like hear from people? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, so please come and ask questions. I'm going to check in the Facebook group as well. So this is an invitation for comments, feelings, what this is bringing up in you, and any questions. I'm going to open up Facebook on my phone so I can check that too. And might make a noise when I first start. So yeah, please put your feelings, comments in the chat.
Isn't it interesting how like taboo what we're talking about is? There's something taboo about it.
Yeah,
Isn't it interesting?
yeah.
And yet it's just like we're literally just talking about the factual reality of life.
About what life is.
But it's like taboo. Isn't that interesting? That kind of says it all, right? I mean, that's it. We just have forgotten how to be with,
Yeah,
you know?
and I'm feeling like, yeah, like we don't know.
Yes.
So I guess what you're offering is people want the how, even though they don't need the how on feeling, on being.
Yes. Well, I
But
think the first step is the seeing the paradigm, because the paradigm is like the water we don't know we're
yeah,
swimming in,
yeah,
right? That's just like, that's not sacred. That's bad. That's wrong. So it's the first layer is just questioning that and considering, maybe, maybe it's sacred as it is.
that's beautiful. Maybe it's sacred as it is. We
Yeah.
have some questions from Jazz. I resonate with everything shared and felt it deeply. Yet, why would a resistant be present too,
Why would resistance be present?
as well? So she feels it,
Mhm.
but I'm guessing, unless you want to correct me, Jazz, if I'm reading it wrongly, but yet, why would a resistance be present too?
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, so the conqueror paradigm, the conqueror consciousness, which lives in all of us, is very afraid of the goddess, very afraid of the goddess. That's why it has to conquer her. And so, what is it afraid of? It's afraid of the feeling of fragility and tenderness and lack of control. That's how I've mapped it, anyways. And so I think that process is like delicate. Like you just kind of start playing with the edge, you know, playing with the edge. Um, I don't think we have to push ourselves into the deep end, but I think it's also one of the anchors that pulls me is like, well, this is how life and creation is designed. So it must be inherently good and trustworthy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Melissa says, I keep receiving this message from the unconscious raising over my ego and making it clear Shakti is rising and this is our life's work.
Hmm. I think that, if we just look at what's happening on the planet right now, it's very obvious that we have totally dissociated from sacred immanence and holy incarnation, right? So yeah, this is it. This is the work. It's time to come back.
Yeah. We have some other questions from Naria. Beautiful, so alive. I feel a big yes, a big thank you for this powerful, loving vibration that you are pouring into this circle.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people saying thank you and feeling it deeply. Magdalena's asked, how do you go back to the present moment on a daily basis?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the risk of like continuing to, plug my own offerings.
But they're amazing teachings, so
I literally have a free album of embodiment practices. It's on Spotify. You can just look up Maya Luna on Spotify. It's on Bandcamp. It's free. It's on my website. It's just
we'll share the links as well in all the groups and on the email, because I think Sophie sent it to me as well.
okay, great.
We'll make sure we send it.
But I would say so it's two things for me. It's the dropping back and down and in rather than the up and forward. It's the back and down and in. Belly low, belly to the ground. Savoring this breath right here. Not watching. This is part of the patriarchalized spirituality, is the witness. Watch your thoughts, watch your emotions, watch your breath, detach, right? This is how we get enlightened, by detaching from the goddess. So in my paradigm, it's savor, get inside, feel, savor this breath like it's the last breath you'll take on earth. Savor this breath like it's your lover, right? Dropping back and down and in. And then the other thing is I tell the truth. I tell the truth, the simple truth out loud about what I am actually experiencing in this moment. I'm scared.
That's really powerful, just being honest with self and accepting with self with how you're feeling. I'm laughing because it's so insane that we don't. And this is the psychopathic patriarchal structure that we have.
And it's what we have called spirituality and enlightenment. They call the goddess, the realm of incarnation and immanence, the Maya, the illusion.
The illusion, the thing to transcend. Yeah.
I mean, it's wild when you start to really see it. It's like, whoa. Not only are we disconnected and have forgotten how to be with her, we have made her a demon, a whore, a seductress, a temptress, an illusion, a danger. Like,
We've cut her up into 1,000 different pieces.
yes,
She
to
can't be her.
purify, scrub her, she's so messy. What else? I see lots coming in.
Yeah, so let's get some more questions. I think Melissa had a question about the dream realm, and I'm just going to find it because it was way up. I would like to know, what is your relationship with the dream realm? A couple of days ago, I had a dream. A giant black sphinx was moving towards a beautiful wood home where I was inside. Huge waves starting moving and rising. And the message I received was, it is now. The moment is now.
Mm.
The sphinx was moving on water.
Wow. That's a potent, very, very, very feminine dream. I wouldn't say that dreams are my specialty, but I do think that that's absolutely a feminine realm, right? It's the unconscious, it's the subconscious, it's the deep dark waters that are, just sort of floating. It's like free from, it's an arena that's free from the conqueror, basically. Like we can't decide what we dream. It's like, it's a different, yeah, realm. So that's not really my specialty, but when I do have profound dreams, I like to act them out and dance them and move them in my body and play with them in that way. I'll say that.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. Someone else says, I feel all of this. I went for a walk in the woods with a friend today and spoke about the need to grieve, not knowing how and where this came from.
Mm.
It feels like we need to return to the old ways where there'd be places for this. Do you have any suggestions on allowing grief?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what I've been doing is I've been lighting a candle. And I make it really short. It's like, I'm going to grieve for 5 minutes. I'm going to grieve for 10 minutes. Put on some music. And I think I have a very unique system. So this might not resonate for everyone, but I want everyone who is listening to just tune into your heart field. And the way it feels for me is that there's always something just under the surface that's just right there. You know, it's so close. All it needs is like a little bit of permission, a little bit of permission. And sometimes it's really irrational, and it's not supposed to be. So I just, like a prayer, I just invite and welcome, whatever. And I'll shake my body sometimes too, just to kind of get the little, trembling going. Um, that's what it feels like, is it's a trembling. It's just a little trembling that's always right there under the surface. And I just create space for it. Permission.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's one more question. There's people saying, I feel it, I see it, it's so evident in our world. Others
Mm-hmm.
saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I know I'm not alone in my thoughts, in the possible causes of the imbalance of humanity and the complete discounting and undermining of the divine feminine.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's
And I think there's one final question, if that's okay. Do you have when I start to own the power of the goddess within me, there is a fear of being seen as proud or condemned. Any suggestions on how to move with these emotions?
right. Well, when you are in a woman's body and you start to channel this goddess energy or feminine truth, especially in any kind of position of power or leadership, um, you will be hated. I'm just going to say that very clearly. The culture of misogyny that is totally connected to everything that we just said, right? Our relationship to the goddess, our relationship to the sacred feminine, our relationship to the realm of immanence and incarnation is directly connected to how we view women, and the power of women. So this is an ongoing process for me. And what is the name of the person who asked this question? I just want to address them directly.
Yeah. Anthea. Athena. Oh, sorry,
Athena.
Athena.
So Athena, this feeling of I'm afraid I'll be seen as proud or arrogant, or it's kind of like, who does she think she is? Um, there's no way to stop that from happening. If you're going to really use your voice as a woman and roar, right? Um, and I think that it's important that we do remain humble in a true sense, not in a superficial saccharine, oh, I'm so humble sense. But I do think it's important. I think that there is an aspect of the divine feminine rising movement that is incredibly narcissistic. That is women, so I'm the goddess, and and it's not the way. It's not the way, right? So we need to check ourselves, right? We need to check ourselves and lay our head at the feet of something that is greater than ourselves. And uh, we need to expect being hated, expect being seen as a bitch, expect being seen as who does she think she is, and go on anyways.
Yeah. Wow.
It's the persecution wound, and it's very real. And I've experienced it as I've gained more audience and more eyes on me and more. It's I think it's important to just name it, because oftentimes when women step into their gifts, their magical, witchy, you know, connection to their like oracular power or their connection to the goddess, oftentimes nothing even has to happen, in terms of people's perception of you, but you feel this sense of, I'm going to be punished. I'm about to be punished. I'm about to be killed. I'm about to be. A lot of women experience this. Please comment if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh well, I know I can, and there's other people commenting. I'm scared of what might happen when I roar. I'm scared of getting lost in my power. In a sense, I don't trust my power. I'm scared it
Yeah.
might come from a distorted place.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying yes, 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 yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, my personal journey, and everyone has their own karma and everyone has their own way. So I'm not pretending to prescribe anything, but for me, it was just like, whatever this is that is ready to come through me, um, I I cannot be deterred by this terror. I'm just going to be terrified. Okay, so there we are again. The willingness to be with life, even when it's uncomfortable. Wow, this is really painful. Wow, this is really scary. Wow, I feel like I'm going to be burned at the stake, and I'm staying. I'm staying. For me personally, it's because I love her. Like, I just can't stop this, current of energy that wants to come.
Chills. That's right. Staying on fire. Loving this.
And in terms of misusing power, so here's the thing. Yes, we have this psychopathic, narcissistic version of power. And yes, a lot of people, including even women that are teaching about the divine feminine, are actually kind of doing so from this conqueror, narcissistic, abusive power way. So, like, that's all real. And I think I don't want to sound like I'm oversimplifying this, but I'm going to try to oversimplify it and say that as long as you are willing to take accountability when you make a mistake, to have the humility to apologize when you've done something wrong, when you've hurt someone, even if unintentionally. As long as you have the willingness to, when someone comes to you and says, hey, you did this thing and it wasn't okay with me, to at least just pause and be willing to hear. I don't think you need to be afraid of abusing power. We all make mistakes. What is required is just the willingness to be wrong, the willingness to say I'm sorry, and the willingness to take responsibility. That narcissistic, psychopathic version of power is not willing to do those things. I'm never wrong. I never make a mistake. I'm always right. And I'm never going to say I'm sorry, right? That's the issue. So, yeah, maybe sometimes you will misuse your power, or your, patterns or trauma or ego will get ensnared. And then you take responsibility and you say, I'm sorry, and you make repair and you make amends. That's the way. Does that resonate with whoever asked that question? Is that helpful? I think it's really important that we start to normalize that,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like,
Yes,
it's
she
like
said.
grieving, the art of apologizing.
Yeah. It's like what I'm feeling when you're it's like humanity, being a human,
Yes.
is missing.
Again, it comes back to what it is to be a human, which means that we do make mistakes. And what is being human? It is the reality of incarnation and immanence, which is the goddess, which is the divine feminine.
Thank you so much, Laya.
Ah,
I'm sure everyone's felt this goddess's presence tonight, or today, or whenever they're watching this. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me here. And yeah, may we all have the immense courage to open to our own tenderness and fragility and vulnerability. That's my wish and my prayer.
Thank you. So we'll share Maya's link, mayaluna.com. We'll share the link to Spotify playlist as well. And thank you, Goddess, as Nesma says. So thank you.
So it's actually Deep Feminine Mystery School.
Sorry.
Mayaluna.com is a restaurant.
Sorry, thank you. Deep Feminine Mystery School.com. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, really, really pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, lots of love to everyone. And if you have questions, pop them in and we'll try and get them answered. Bye.